Hey, Chem students, we are beginning this lecture, Chapter 1, Section A, What is Chemistry? So chemistry is the study of matter and the changes that it undergoes. And if you remember from your article that you read about matter, matter is anything that takes up space and has mass. And if you look at these pictures on the slide, we've got a cup of coffee. Now, chemicals make up all of these things in the pictures you see. So it makes up the coffee that you enjoy drinking, the food you eat. Chemicals make up the things that keep us clean, like soap or our shampoo. Chemicals also are part of fabricating electric devices, or the petroleum that makes our vehicles move. These are all things made of chemicals. So your worldview is the perspective from which you see and interpret all of life. And as a Christian, I look at the world. My worldview would be a biblical worldview. I think about how God would want me to see things, and just, not in a religious way, but just like as a real relationship with God. I think, just as a conversation. I think about the values that I have been brought up on, and just my faith. And so I just look at different issues in the world, or what's going on in science, and I just think about my relationship with God and what God's doing in my life, and I look at it. I look at the world from that perspective. So ancient chemistry. So back in the day, there were these businesses called apothecaries, and they held all sorts of medicines, and pharmacists would work in there, and you would go to an apothecary and get whatever medicine you needed. And they were well versed in whatever that you were in there shopping for to maybe heal whatever ailment that you had. And interestingly, in Germany, even today, they have apothecaries that you can walk in and get different medicines or essential oils, things like that. Now, ancient Greeks, they viewed matter in a different light. They tended to reason and philosophize over matter. So they actually never did anything hands-on. It was all in their minds. And what they viewed matter, it consisted of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. Okay, now the Greeks viewed matter in this way, but eventually the idea of atoms making up matter came from the Greeks. So alchemists, I find these guys really interesting. So while the Greeks spent most of their time philosophizing and reasoning about matter, not actually doing anything, the alchemists actually went to the lab. And yes, they did have strong superstitions, but most of their practices were based on scientific reasonings and principles. So they did a lot of observations and experimentations. There was some astrology, some mysticism, but like I said, there was some really strong principles behind what they were doing. Now, they had a great interest in trying to find the answer to immortality, how to pass from sickness to health, how to go from an earthly existence to a supernatural existence. And one of the ways they did this was through what's called transmutation. And that's the conversion of one chemical element into another. So what they were really interested in was taking a base metal such as lead and trying to turn it into silver or gold, because in their minds that was going to be the answer to getting them to that next best level. So modern chemistry today, it took a while. The Greeks the idea of atoms originated from the Greeks, but it didn't gain popularity or acceptance until the mid 1600s. Elements were redefined and actually produced in the lab. As you learned from Ira Remsen, chemistry became a regular part of science curriculums in universities and colleges. And chemistry is so practical in our modern world, from clothing, what our clothing is made out of. You can actually specialize in college in textile chemistry. Our food is made of chemicals, what we eat, what we drink, the tools we use, and the medicines that help us get well. This all involves chemistry. So look at chemistry. Look at this big web here. Chemistry is right in the middle. And look at how chemistry impacts all of these other areas of study. Now I'll say this area over here, biology, microbiology, food science. This is more of my area. This is where I spent a lot of my college time focusing. I'd love to know more about environmental science and how I can merge that into some of our chemistry studies. Chemistry is really important in geology and knowing what elements make up certain rocks. Chemistry is in physics, and as you learn in some of the careers that you examined, technology in chemistry is really, really important. And if you're interested in learning things on a really small level, you might be interested in nanoscience. They examine various substances at a really, really, really small level and build models on that to try to understand it better. Now, chemistry in our everyday life. Examples of chemistry in your life every day. So when you digest food, our stomach acids are breaking down the food into really small substances, small chemicals that our body needs to sustain life. And this would be involved in biochemistry, understanding the pathway of these various elements and how our body uses them for energy. Another example would be synthesizing polymers for clothing, cookware, and credit cards, refining crude oil into gasoline and other products. So in this course, you're going to discover that there are many different examples of changes in the composition and structure of matter, and also how to classify these changes in matter and understand how they occur. The changes in energy that accompany these changes in matter. Okay, so that's the end of the first lecture. Please look at the homework I have, and I will see you for next time.